Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're exploring a biological phenomenon that has literally shaped the world of agriculture and, honestly, the very food sitting on our plates. We're looking at vegetative reproduction, which is basically the science of plant cloning. Okay, let's dive right into this. So, how do plants naturally clone themselves? When we think of reproduction in biology, we usually jump straight to seeds and pollination, right? Two parents, a big mix of genetics. But nature actually has this incredible built-in copy-paste function that bypasses all of that entirely. We're talking about a process where plants create exact, flawless replicas of themselves without needing a single seed. It's kind of like a biological superpower. And this superpower has a name: vegetative reproduction. It happens when plants reproduce asexually, using just their existing vegetative parts, stuff like stems, roots, or leaves. And here's the kicker. Because there's absolutely zero mixing of genes, the resulting offspring are exact, flawless genetic clones of the parent plant. Now, for plants, this is just a really fascinating survival mechanism. But we humans, we're natural problem solvers. We looked at nature's copy-paste function and realized, wow, we can harness this. Let's move to and see how this builds. We actually stepped in, intervened, and scaled up this entire process to feed and beautify the whole world. While vegetative reproduction definitely happens naturally out in the wild, many of the methods we rely on today wouldn't occur without us. We've specifically engineered artificial methods to deliberately exploit this cloning process. And why do we do it? Well, because we don't want to leave our food supply up to chance. We use agriculture and horticulture to rapidly multiply fresh stocks and practically guarantee the specific plant traits we actually desire. So, how exactly do we pull this off? What are these artificial methods we've engineered? Well, method one is cutting. It's arguably the most foundational, classic technique in the human agricultural playbook. It's simple, but its effectiveness is absolutely profound. Now, what's really interesting about this is the biological magic behind it. A cutting is literally just a small piece of any vegetative part of a plant that happens to have one or more buds. Think about that for a second. An isolated, completely severed piece of a plant, as long as it's got a single bud, possesses all the genetic instructions it needs to regenerate an entirely new, fully functioning plant. You just snip a piece off and bam, it starts a whole new life. And the versatility here is just incredible. We aren't just limited to stems, though stem cuttings are exactly what give us beautiful roses and bougainvilleas. You can actually use a leaf, like the sansevieria, which can regenerate from a single blade. Or you can even use roots. Plant a piece of a blackberry root, and it's gonna aggressively clone itself into a whole new bush. Stem, leaf, or root, the plant uses whatever it has on hand to keep its genetic line going. All right, let's turn the energy up for our next technique, because this is where the science gets truly wild. Method two is grafting. If cutting is about encouraging one piece to grow, grafting is the ultimate biological mashup. We are forcing two completely separate plants to combine their bodies and their strengths into one. Grafting is joining parts of two different plants in such a way that they grow as one single organism. Just marvel at the sheer ingenuity here for a second. We literally take plant A, physically bind it to plant B, and force their vascular systems to merge. It is, for sure, nature's version of a jigsaw puzzle. Let's break down the logic of exactly how this works. Step one, you take the scion. This is the top piece of a stem that contains multiple buds, basically the part that's going to grow the branches, the leaves, and the specific fruit you want. Step two, you join that scion onto the stalk, which is the rooted base plant that stays in the ground. Step three, you secure them and let them grow as one. You get strong, established roots from the stalk and perfect fruit from the scion, all functioning perfectly together. Now, there is a very specific, delicate variation to this rule. What happens when you only use a single bud instead of a whole stem? Well, when just one single bud is joined onto the stalk, it's called budding or bud grafting. It's the exact same principle, just utilizing a much, much smaller piece to hijack that rooted stalk. And this brilliantly illustrates why this matters. You might be wondering how often you actually encounter this in real life. The answer? Constantly. Those pristine apples, the pears, the perfectly shaped roses you buy at the store, you're almost certainly looking at the direct result of this exact grafting technique. We rely heavily on this process to mass produce the exact flavors and aesthetics that we love. So we've covered cutting and we've covered grafting. Now we're shifting to the final, most highly orchestrated method in our explainer. We're scaling up the science from the garden straight to the laboratory. Method 3, tissue culture. The scale of this is deeply impressive. Tissue culture is a method where a tiny, almost microscopic amount of plant tissue is carefully extracted and grown to give many plantlets. We're no longer taking a whole stem or a root. We place that tiny, careful sample in a highly controlled, nutrient-rich environment, coaxing it to yield not just one, but dozens of new plantlets. It is maximum efficiency cloning. So the crucial point is that this leads us to the modern, cutting-edge evolution of the process, micropropagation. This is tissue culture operating at its absolute peak. It allows agricultural scientists to rapidly multiply thousands of exact, disease-free clones in a fraction of the time it would ever take in nature. It really is peak human ingenuity. We've seen how nature created the ultimate copy-paste function, and how humans took that process to entirely engineer the food and flowers we consume every single day. Which leaves us with a massive question to conclude our explainer today. If our favorite fruits and flowers are already exact clones, engineered to meet our current needs, how will human requirements continue to shape the future of plant reproduction? As our climate changes and our populations grow, what traits will we clone next? It's a fascinating thought to take with you. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep asking great questions.